Hello everyone, this is SMD Mazharullah, Assistant Professor in TB Department in ISC Engineering College. I am going to take the subject Electrical Measurement and Instrumentation for the third years. And also, before starting the subject, I would like to tell you that is related to the subject, that is about the course objectives and the course outcomes of this subject, Electrical Measurements and Instrumentation. So what are the course objectives of this particular subject is to learn and understand the fundamental concepts, principle of operations of different measuring instruments can be learned here, as well as to understand the various types of bridges in measurement for measuring the resistance, inductance and capacitance, and also to understand the operation application of the ballistic galvanometer, flux meter and DC to AC potentiometer also. Now to understand the application of CRO in measurement of the amplitude is also one of the objective of this particular subject, and the course outcomes are, if you gain the subject knowledge here, then the outcomes are, after completing this particular subject, we can have knowledge about how can we choose a suitable instrument like ammeter or voltmeter for AC to DC applications, and also we can select the suitable bridge for measurement of electrical parameters and quantities, and also we will be learning about the CRO and how it is measuring the amplitude and phase and frequency of a sinusoidal signal also. Okay, so here the first unit is about instruments, and later on we are having meters and bridges. So let us now begin with the topic called as instruments. Okay, so first unit is instruments. We are having this now about the knowledge about the instruments we will be gaining. Okay, let's start. Measurement. What is a measurement? It is the act or result of quantitative comparison between a predefined standard and unknown quantity. So we will be understanding this measurement like if you are measuring some voltage. So there will be some standard measurement of 0 to 100 volts meter will be there. So in that 0 to 100 volts meter you will be measuring some 30 volts or 40 volts. So that 40 volts is measured. So we can call it is an act of or result of quantitative comparison between the predefined standard and the unknown quantity. Before measuring the voltage there, the unknown quantity was the 30 volts and the known quantity or the predefined standard was 100 volts. So the range was 100 volts it can measure, and in the 100 volts it has shown a deflection of the 30 volts like that. So it is clear that what is a measurement? It is act of or result of quantitative comparison between predefined standard and unknown quantity. And coming to the instrument, it is a device or mechanism that is used to determine the present value of quantity under observation. So if you want some instrument to record or measure something, then some observation will be done, and also that particular recording will be measured, or that reading will be measured. So it is a device or mechanism used to determine the present value of quantity under observation. It can be a voltmeter, it can be a meter, or it can be a power factor meter or power watt meter also. Any device which is having the present value of a quantity under observation is called as instrument. Okay. Now the classification of instruments based upon these things are absolute instruments and secondary instrumentation. Now absolute instruments, what are these absolute instruments? Absolute instruments indicate the value of quantity being measured in terms of constants of instruments and its deflection. Suppose a quantity is being showing deflection, then that absolute instrument indicate the value of quantity in terms of the constant of the instruments. Now it has no comparison with the standard instrument it is necessary. So absolute instrument don't require any particular standard instrument for their comparison. For example, tangent galvanometer. In tangent galvanometer, if the current is flowing through the galvanometer, then the galvanometer will deflect. If the current is zero flowing in that particular branch, or it is not flowing through the galvanometer does not deflect. So this principle of this galvanometer is mainly dependent upon the flow of current there. So these absolute instruments are nothing but galvanometer, where the indication is shown whenever the current is passing, and when the current is not flowing, it doesn't show any deflection, and it does not require any particular standard instrument to measure, because we are not measuring here, we are just seeing that the deflection is there or the deflection is absent. Okay, if the deflection is present, then the current is flowing in the branch. If the deflection is absent in the galvanometer, then the current is not present in the branch. Okay. Now coming to secondary instruments, these are completely opposite of the absolute instruments, where secondary instruments are nothing but they require the calibration with respect to absolute instruments, as well as the secondary instrument determine the value of the quantity being measured from deflection of the instruments. So here we get the value of the quantity being measured from deflection of the instruments. In absolute instrument we don't get any value, but we get the deflection to know the particular quantity is there or not. But here in secondary instruments we measure the value. I am stressing this point, to measure the value of the quantity being measured from the deflection of instruments are called as secondary instruments. Now the calibration is a must for secondary instruments, because without the calibration the deflection obtained is meaningless. Now for example, we are having ammeter, we are having voltmeter, wattmeter, etc. These are all called as secondary instruments. Okay. The classification based on the nature of operation. Secondary instruments are further classified as three types. They are indicating instruments, recording instruments, and indicating instruments. Now these indicating instruments, what does they do? Indicating instruments indicate the instantaneous value of quantity under measurement. Like if you want to know some voltage or current, then the deflection will show, or it indicates that some voltage is there, that amount of voltage is flowing in the circuit will be shown in the indicating type of instruments. These are normally ammeter and voltmeter. And what about recording instruments? Recording instruments are used in power plants, as well as they are used in the process industries, where the continuous recording of variation of quantity is being measured. Suppose voltage, frequency and power as taken examples, then the voltage how it is varying for different types of time of the day. Like in the load flow studies we will be seeing the voltage monitoring. So the voltage monitoring will be seen that how the voltage will be continuously varying throughout the day will be recorded in that particular recording instruments, as well as the power also can be recorded, how much power is being delivered also can be recorded here. And coming to the third one, it is the integrating instrument. An integrating instrument is one which takes into consideration the period or time over which the quantity is supplied. For example, the integrating instrument is taking this quantity and supplied for a regular period of time. For example, is energy meter. This energy meter will be having this particular ability to record or integrate the particular reading for a given hours. Like suppose energy meter will be giving the reading in kilowatt hour. So how much power is being used for how many hours will be given by energy meter. So it is integrating. It is integrating both the power used as well as for how much time. Similarly, ampere hour meter. It is both covering the ampere and hour, integrating. We can call it as integrating. So recording in the sense, recording the variation in quantity for a regular period of time, and integrating means, integrating is one of which takes the period of time over the quantity is supplied. Okay, the best example is energy meter, where how much time is supplied, the power is supplied is given. Okay. Next, electric instruments can be classified as AC instruments and DC instruments. These AC instruments work on AC supply, DC instruments work on DC supply, as well as this AC and DC instruments work on both AC and DC supply. For it to coming to a short point, here we can say that MI and MC are nothing but the type of instruments where MC is used for only DC supply quantity measurement, as well as this MI is used for both AC and DC measurement. So here it is given that moving iron instruments are the best examples for both AC and DC, whereas moving coil is only for the DC instruments. Okay, and also this particular both AC and DC can also be measured by dynamometer instruments. Okay, so in the broad classification, DC means PMMC instruments, and this particular AC means MI instruments. MI will measure both AC and DC. Or digital instruments. One or more way of classifying instrument is analog instruments and digital instruments. Analog information is continuous and stepless, function of time. Analog instruments are easy to understand, calibrate and maintain. And digital information is in form of discrete pulses of steps. Digital instruments have higher resolution and high readability. These are the things that are to be considered for analog instruments and digital instruments, where analog instruments are easy to understand, calibrate and maintain, and digital information here, digital instruments have digital information which is in the form of discrete pulses or steps. Digital instruments have higher resolution and high readability. These are the things of analog or digital instruments. Now, various instruments used in practice are the following instruments, that are voltmeter, ammeter, wattmeter and energy meter. So, voltmeter is used for measuring the AC or DC voltage. Ammeter is used for measuring AC or DC current. So, this is a similar way wattmeter can be used to measure the AC power, that is the units are watts, and or we can say watt power. Energy meter, what does it do? It is measuring the energy. So, watt hour we can say. So, the energy output that is given as kilowatt hours, that is energy meter is also a instrument that is used for day-to-day life measuring, voltmeter, ammeter, wattmeter and energy meter. And coming to the operating of indicating instruments, for satisfactory operation of any indicating instrument, the following three torques must act together appropriately. So I repeat this point, for satisfactory operation of any indicating instrument. As just now we said, indicating instruments are nothing but ammeter, voltmeter or any particular thing, wattmeter or power factor meter, all these are indicating instruments. For satisfactory operation of any indicating instrument, following three torques must be act together appropriately. The number one is the deflecting torque, and number two is the controlling torque, and number three is the damping torque. The deflecting torque, it causes the moving system of instrument to move from its position of rest. Nothing but the pointer will be at zero position when anything is not given or a supply is not given to the particular setup. So at the rest, what is there? The instrument move from position of rest. It makes the pointer to move from the position of rest. That is called as deflecting torque. Deflecting torque is necessary for a pointer to move from the position of rest. And second point is the deflecting torque is produced by using any one of the effects. Why? Because the torque should be produced. If the torque is not produced, then how can this particular pointer will show deflection? So the deflection is being happened, or a deflecting torque is being produced by any one of these effects of electric current, that is the magnetic effect, electromagnetic induction effect, heating effect and electrostatic effect. Any one of these are the following effects that are responsible for deflecting torque. Coming to the controlling torque, it limits the movement of moving systems. It also ensures that magnitude of deflection is always the same for the given value of input quantity under measurement. That means that the controlling torque is opposite to that particular deflecting torque. If the deflecting torque is moving in the clockwise direction, then the controlling torque should be present so as that particular pointer does not move in a more forward way and it shows the wrong reading. So controlling torque is necessary for making that pointer to a stable position, to come to a stable position. It also ensures that the magnitude of deflection is always the same for given value of input quantity under measurement. So whenever we get a reading, we see that deflecting torque is equal to controlling torque. If deflecting torque is not equal to controlling torque, then we don't get a proper reading or accurate reading. Why? Because these two torques make the pointer to stand at a some reading position. Like suppose you are having 30 volts measured in a voltmeter. The 30 volts measured in the voltmeter is just because of deflecting torque and the controlling torque acting in the opposite direction, and the pointer is being held at that position of 30 volts. Now controlling torque acts in opposite direction, that of deflecting torque. So we can write the steady state, at steady state deflecting torque is equals to the controlling torque. Okay. Now talking about the damping torque. Due to deflecting torque, the pointer moves in one direction, while due to controlling torque, pointer moves in the opposite direction. Due to these opposite torques, the pointer may accelerate in forward and backward directions if damping torque is not present. So the damping torque is necessary for making this particular two torques acting one upon the other, that is in opposite direction, and damping torque is nothing but torque that is responsible for the moving system to take its rest position and final position. Damping torque mainly brings the moving system or the moving pointer to rest quickly in its final position. Like it will be oscillating, the damping torque is not present, the pointer will be oscillating. Now the damping torque acts only when the moving system is actually moving. If moving system is at rest, damping torque is 0. So this data will be helpful for us while doing the problems where he will be giving the damping torque and he will be asking to find out the TD and the TC. Suppose he gives some TC and I will be asking the TD. So TD is equal to TC at steady state. So we can write directly TD TC value in the place of the TD, or that is the deflecting torque value. Okay. Next is the critical damping. What is critical damping? Depending on the magnitude of torque, damping may be classified as underdamped, overdamped, or critically damped. Effect of damping on deflection of instrument is shown in the figure. If the instrument is underdamped, the pointer will come to rest after some oscillations. If instrument is overdamped, pointer takes considerable time to obtain its final deflected position. If the damping is critical, without oscillation and in short time, the pointer reaches its final steady position. Okay, this is called as critical damping, where damping is critical means without oscillation and in short time the pointer reaches its final steady position. I hope you are understanding this one. So if you see here the final deflection and versus time, critically damped, the pointer comes to rest very quickly and shows the reading. Overdamped and underdamped as well as this, these are the figures showing the deflections of underdamped and overdamped, and this is a critically damped, effect of damping on the deflection of the instrument. The damping torque, if it is present, then it will make the pointer to come to rest quickly. Okay. So damping also has the various types. For the different damping cases, these are the graphs. If the system is critically damped, it's come to rest position early. If it is underdamped, it will be having some oscillations. If it is overdamped, it will rise and then comes to a final position. Now the connection diagrams we will see. How are these connection diagrams of an ammeter? Ammeter is used for measurement of current. An ammeter is always connected in series with the load, the current through which is to be measured as shown in the figure now. Since the resistance offered by an ammeter is very small, its introduction in series with load does not alter the circuit conditions. An ammeter is always connected in series with the load, the current through which is to be measured. And the resistance offered by an ammeter is very small because its introduction in series with load does not alter any circuit conditions. If you see the connection of an ammeter, there is a battery, there is an ammeter, and there is a lamp. So battery means supply, ammeter means measuring instrument, lamp means here load. So this is a very simple structure of the measuring device ammeter. Connection diagram of a voltmeter. A voltmeter is used for measurement of voltage, that is called as potential difference also. So it is connected across the point between which the potential difference is to be measured. Like a voltmeter has a high resistance, so it draws very small current. The connection of voltmeter is shown in the figure 2. So if you see the figure, one is the battery, other is a resistive load, other is a voltmeter. This voltmeter is connected in parallel to the resistance. Now comparison of ammeter and voltmeter. We have this table where we are having serial number, parameter, ammeter and voltmeter. The parameter here is quantity measured, and that is the measured quantity is current, and in ammeter, and the measured quantity is voltage in voltmeter. Second point, the parameter is connected in series with load and parallel with load. So ammeter is connected in series with load and the voltmeter is connected parallel with load. Just now we have seen the figure 2 and figure 1. Now the other parameter, resistance. The resistance of ammeter is very low. Okay, the resistance of ammeter should be low because if the resistance of ammeter is high, then we will not be able to take the correct readings. Because if it doesn't allow the current to pass through, then what happens? The ammeter cannot show the correct reading. So the ammeter should have low resistance, and voltmeter should have the high resistance. Voltmeter should have high resistance, and this connection diagrams, as just now I have shown figure 1 and figure 2, that is how we are connecting the ammeter and how the voltmeter is connected in the particular circuit. Types of instruments used for voltmeter and ammeters are different types. The practically used ammeters and voltmeters can be of following types. That is, number 1 point is permanent magnet moving coil. That is shortcut of this is PMMC type of instrument. And moving iron type of instrument is called as MI type. And other one is the hot wire type and induction type of instruments. So mainly we are studying about the PMMC and MI instruments here. The moving coil instruments are ammeter and voltmeter of two types. How many types? There are two types. Permanently magnet moving coil type used for only DC, and dynamometer type can be used for AC as well as DC. Now PMMC instruments, we will classify PMMC instruments. So MI instruments and MC instruments. Shortcut is MI or MC. MC for only DC and MI is used for both AC and DC. They are also known as d'Arsenoval instruments. Which one are called d'Arsenoval instruments? PMMC instruments are also called as d'Arsenoval instruments. These instruments works on the electromagnetic effect of the current. A permanent magnet used to produce magnetic flux and coil that carries the current to be measured moves in this particular field. So we will see the working principle. When a current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, it experiences some force, and it is given the expression F is equals to BIL. So working principle of this particular thing is shown here for PMMC instruments. F is equals to BIL, where F is force in newtons, B is the flux density in Tesla, and I is equals to current in amperes, and L is equal to length of conductor in meter. The current I, which is to be measured and passed through the moving coil and experience the force which is directly proportional to this current. Due to this force, the coil moves and pointer attached to it will also move. And third is the angle through which the pointer moves is proportional to the current I. So working principle is this one, where F is equals to BIL, where B is flux density in Tesla, current in amperes is I, and L is length of the conductor in meter. Suppose we are telling here the current I is which is to be measured through a PMMC instrument is passed through the moving coil and experiences a force which is directly proportional to this current. Due to this force, the coil moves and the pointer attached to it will also move. And the angle through which the pointer moves is proportional to the current. The more the current, the more the pointer will be moving. So here what we are seeing that when the current is passed through, the force is developed. Through the moving coil, some force is developed and the deflections will be happen to the pointer. And if the deflection happens more means the current is also more. Now construction of PMMC instrument, a coil of thin wire is mounted on an aluminum frame or called a spindle, the position between the poles of a U-shaped permanent magnet which is made up of magnetic alloys like alnico. Alloys means one or two metals. A coil of thin wire is mounted on an aluminum frame like you can see here in this particular diagram. Here the pointer is given, scale and mirror is given, and we can see that here the spring is there and pivot and jewel bearing is there, and here the balancing weight also present, and this is the permanent magnet and this is the coil. Okay, and this is the core. So here we can say that this PMMC instruments, what happens is whenever the current is passed through, it experiences some force and this particular pointer will start deflecting. Okay. So the coil which is put on jewel bearing and thus the coil is free to rotate. The current is fed to the coil through spiral springs which are 2 in number. The coil which carries the current which is to be measured moves in a strong magnetic field produced by permanent magnet and a point is attached to the spindle which shows the measured value. So here you can see that there are this particular magnets kept here, and this is the core and this is the core, and this balance weight is there, and the pointer will start deflecting whenever the current is passed through because of this electromagnetic effect. Now coming to the next point is deflecting torque. So it can be proved that the expression for deflecting torque is given by Td is equals to G into I, where G is constant, I is current through moving coil. And the controlling torque is given by Tc is equal to C into theta, where C is constant, control spring constant in Newton meter per radian, and theta is deflection of coil from zero position. Okay, Tc is C theta and Td is equal to G into I. Now for steady state, the controlling torque is equal to deflecting torque, Tc is equals to Td. So C theta is equal to Gi, theta is proportional to I. Thus from this we can say that thus deflection of pointer is proportional to the current passed through the coil in moving coil instruments. So it is very easy to find out that theta is proportional to current. Now we coming to the advantages of PMMC instruments. The PMMC consumes less power and has great accuracy. It has uniformly divided scale and can cover the arc of 270 degrees. And the PMMC has high torque to weight ratio, and it can be modified as ammeter or voltmeter with suitable resistance. It has efficient damping characteristics and is not affected by stray magnetic field. Stray magnetic field means other fields which are magnetic fields are having in the atmosphere, in the things where outside, not in the from the meter inside of the meter, but the outside fields are called as stray magnetic field. It produces no losses due to hysteresis. Advantages are over, but now seeing the disadvantages of PMMC instruments, the moving coil instruments can only be used on DC supply as the reversal of current produces reversal of torque on the coil. So this point is main thing. The moving coil instrument can only be used for DC supply as the reversal of current produces reversal of torque on the coil. So we are not using this type of things with the AC supply, because in AC the reversal of current takes place for every half cycle. So if every half cycle the current will start this thing means reversing means the torque also gets deflected in different directions. So that is to be understood here, and it is very delicate and sometimes used AC circuit with a rectifier, and it's costly as compared to moving coil iron instruments, and it may show error due to loss of magnetism of permanent magnet. Okay, these are the points or disadvantages of PMMC instruments. Now connections of PMMC instrument as ammeter or voltmeter. When the instrument is used as an ammeter, an external low resistance called shunt is connected in parallel with the movement, so that net resistance of instrument is very low and the instrument can be connected in series with any equipment whose current is to be measured. Due to low resistance, voltage drop across instrument is negligible. So you can see here connection as an ammeter. In the ammeter the resistance is connected in shunt here, and this is the RL, the load resistance, as well as here the voltmeter. If you see in the voltmeter the RS is connected in series and load is here kept here. So you can see that ammeter, for the ammeter it is connected in parallel and for voltmeter it is connected in series. When instrument is an ammeter, an external low resistance called shunt is connected in parallel with the movement, so that net resistance of instrument is very low and the instrument can be connected in series with any equipment whose current is to be measured. So please understand this, that the ammeter, whenever the ammeter is used, the ammeter has some resistance already in it, that is called as the RS or shunt resistance, and voltmeter also has some resistance that is called as the series resistance RS. Why? Because to measure this particular voltage, this much resistance is required here for voltmeter, and to measure the current appropriately, this much of negligible resistance is required for ammeter also. Okay. Next is the voltmeter. When the instrument is used as voltmeter, an external resistance is connected in series, as I told just now. Students, these are the things that we have dealt about this PMMC instrument and how the voltmeter and ammeter were connected. This is the thing. Now, when the instrument is used as a voltmeter, an external resistance is connected in series with the movement, and these series combination is connected as across supply terminals or load terminals, or in general cross any two terminals where terminal voltage is to be measured. Due to high resistance, current flowing through the instrument is negligible. So we should avoid the current that is to be flowing in the instrument is negligible, as well as the voltmeter should show the voltage and ammeter should show this particular current reading properly. So this type of diagram is there for showing how the ammeter is being connected in the circuit and how the current is reading is taken from this ammeter, because this ammeter is having a shunt resistance already connected inside it, and here for a voltmeter the series resistance connected inside it, so that we get the accurate reading of a PMMC instrument. So I would like to conclude my class here, and the next class we will study about the different types of these measurements, as well as we will see about how we are learning about different types of meters and bridges. Okay, so I will be starting the next class in this time according to the timetable. So thank you.